Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's How It's Done. My name is Anthony John Agnello, Senior Social Editor here at GamesRadar.com, and we have a wonderful treat for you today. We're going to be playing none other than Halo 5 Guardians, which is the game whose lovely menu you see in your window at this very moment if you're here with us at the top of the stream. And in just 30 minutes, we are going to have a man who is locked into the heart of this franchise these days, a man named Frank O'Connor, who is what is known as the franchise director for Halo, working with 343 and Microsoft Game Studios. Frank is a fascinating dude. Frank has been deeply involved in not just the Halo series over the past 5 years, but in the roots of the Halo series. Frank actually worked on the games that Bungie made before they started making Halo. He worked on Marathon 2 way back in the day. Was involved with BungieNet during Halo's reign on the Xbox 360, and took over as franchise director with 2010's Halo Reach. And he'll be hanging out with us in just a little while, ready to answer all of your burning questions. Actually, I gotta tell you, we're very lucky today. Today, this stream is coming in freaking hot, man. We almost did not make it live because Microsoft did not provide me with code for Halo 5 until just about 4 hours before our airtime. So we're live right now, and we did not have Halo 5 code for me to play until just 4 hours ago, which is pretty awesome. So what you are seeing right now is not my stream of Halo 5, but Ludwig Kitzman, our editor-in-chief, who you will be seeing in that lower right-hand corner of the stream window in just a couple of seconds. He is out walking his dog, and then we are going to play the first 3 campaign missions of Halo 5 and then dig into the multiplayer, which just finished downloading for Ludwig a couple of minutes ago. In the meantime, if you have any questions for us, pop them into the chat. Hello, Night Legend 78, and hello, Easily Baffled. Dude, I can't wait for us to play either. I am so excited. I'm actually sitting here with bated breath, kind of hoping that somehow, miraculously, my Halo 5 finishes downloading and installing on my Xbox One, so that I can actually play the multiplayer with Ludwig before the stream is over. But it's crushing me. It's been downloading for, let's see, it's 4.5 hours. It's been downloading since, since 4.5 hours ago, and it's only at 47% installed at this point. Nitrotoxin, how are you getting it early? You are watching the official Twitch channel of GamesRadar.com. We're a press outlet primarily covering console games, but looking at all of gaming. And we stream here 4 days a week, my friend. Easily Baffled, my Xbox was stolen before I had a chance to finish Halo 4. Nothing important happens towards the end of that, right? Right? Oh, no. Well...
Hey, I'm back. I'm here.
Hey! It's Ludwig Kitzman, everybody! What do you think about that? It's new haircut, Ludwig Kitzman.
It's simpler times.
Simpler times.
That's aggressive. I can peruse the spray paint aisles of a hardware store without feeling like I'm making someone else nervous.
Ludwig, you've already been playing Halo 5 before today.
I have completed that stuff on Heroic, sir.
Oh shit! Heroic already? Did you start on Heroic? Do you start on Heroic?
That's the way Halo is meant to be played.
Oh, I play on normal. I'm a normal guy who
That's fine. Like, I think if you play a difficulty level and you're not enjoying it, then change the difficulty. But I enjoy Heroic because it slows you down a little bit and you have to be a little more careful.
Yeah. See. Were you playing through the campaign cooperatively, or were you just playing totally by yourself? And
I
know
was
that's a
playing by
tricky question.
myself. There were definitely some tough moments in the campaign for Halo 5, which are going to be way easier, I think, with 3 other players. But I think they also scale the difficulty so that, you know,
Okay, Night.
it's not just like 4 people tackle are really easy.
Letty, before you fire up the campaign, so that we can all get a piping hot plate of Halo 5, Night Legend 78 has a very unusual and random question, which is, what was your most embarrassing video game experience ever? And Night Legend, can you clarify, like, is it embarrassing anything involving video
Anthony,
games?
I'm going to make you super huge momentarily because I'm afraid that if I open the solo menu, it'll be on final mission of the game.
It'll be on the final mission of the game.
So I'm covering it up like so. I'm making you gigantic.
You're making me gigantic. I totally understand.
So are you giant on the stream now? Did you see yourself?
It should
expand?
be momentarily. Everybody, we are under slight restrictions over what we can show you, even though Ludwig has already completed the campaign. We are only allowed to show you the first 3 campaigns.
I just don't want people to see the names of the missions, right? So.
Are you
giant yet? Are you giant on the stream?
I'm enormous. Yeah.
You're enormous. Good. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to my other display where I'm running the game, so that I can make sure that we are ready to go in a way that will not.
All right, Night
ruin it for other people.
Night Legend 78 says, "What was your most embarrassing video game experience ever?" Ever. All right. Let's see. I think that the most embarrassing video game experience ever was when I was 20 years old in college, and I was home, and a package had arrived in the mail, and I opened it up. I was very seriously anticipating this arrival, this thing in the mail, because I had pre-ordered it. I was very excited about this game coming out. And my girlfriend at the time came over and said, "Hey, why don't we go to your bedroom?" She wanted to spend some intimate time with me. And I said, "No.
I don't believe that part of the story at all.
I would rather play this video game." And then she said, "What video game is it?" And I responded, "Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball." This is a true story. This actually happened. And I often think if I ever had access to a time machine, I would go back in time and literally punch 20-year-old me in the dick. I would walk right up to him and full force, all knuckles, right in his junk. I think he would have it coming.
All right, so we can do 1, 2, and 3, right?
We can do 1, 2, and 3. And hello to you, R. Bushy X. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today.
Let me know if anything goes horribly wrong in the stream, because I actually can't see the stream itself. I can only see the game right now. So I'm going to count on you, Anthony.
Well, I got your back, Ludwig.
Good. So I feel better about that.
I think everybody is enjoying my tale of youthful indiscretion.
Those are the best kinds of tales.
See, but at least that happened like 13 years ago, right?
Right.
12 years ago. 12 years ago.
It's been a while, is what you're saying.
It's been some time. I'm not that person anymore. Night Legend, you weren't expecting. You asked for the most embarrassing. Letty, what is happening? Where are you? What is this hallway? Where's Cortana?
This is Dr. Halsey.
All right. Well, Night Legend 78, how long have you been on Twitch? GamesRadar's channel has been open for a few years. Like, it was established, I think, in 2012 or 2013. And as far as me personally, I have been hosting GamesRadar's talk shows, our new slate of shows, since August at this point, so just a couple of months. Ludwig hosts our regular Wednesday show, Departure Lounge. He's here backing me up and playing the game because he is a noble soul who
because I had the game on my console.
right, because you actually have the game on your console.
Yep. Turns out that's an important part of streaming Halo 5 is
Yeah, you actually need Halo 5 to be
so I need
actually.
Halo 5, yeah.
Ludwig, is Cortana still crazy? Is that what's happening?
Well, I mean, that was just a flashback. That was the moment of her creation,
Mm.
Dr. Halsey. Now we're at current events, and we're going to go rescue Dr. Halsey from. Well, she doesn't want to be there. Let's just say that
She doesn't
she
want
doesn't,
to.
she doesn't know. She doesn't want to be where she's at.
So, Ludwig, can you have played through all of the Halo campaigns in the past year, correct?
Yes, that is. Except for I did not play ODST recently.
You did not play ODST recently.
Yeah.
So can you catch everyone up as to what was going on at the end of Halo 4?
At the end of Halo 4, Master Chief had stopped the Didact, who was I think he was a foreigner, and he was trying to use something.
Not a foreigner. He
Not a
wasn't.
foreigner. No,
he
no,
was
no.
a
That would be
foreigner.
me.
He was technically a foreigner, I suppose, a little. But
But he was trying to use this device called the Composer that is able to... It basically erases organic matter, but it converts those people into artificial intelligence or programs, and those go into robot bodies. So that's basically where he got an army from people who would be converted into robots because, as we know, the Flood loves organic matter. So that was one tactic to stop the Flood, because they're space zombies in Halo, right?
Ludwig, I might hate the Flood more than any other video game enemy in the history of video games.
Well, you know what I really liked about Halo 4, besides the fact that it did not have the Flood in it? But I like some parts of the Flood, but I think 3 games was enough for them to have their day.
Yeah.
But I like that Halo 4 didn't just go back to that, or didn't go back to even the Halo rings themselves. You see a ring in Halo 4, but you don't really go to one.
Right.
And
right.
it's just like the story, this is a completely different story now.
Ludwig, okay.
This is all gameplay, by the way. I'm just playing with my mind.
This is
I'm just
all
being
you.
this. I'm just being this
This is all
awesome.
you. By the way, everybody, Platinum Games assisted 343 in making Halo 5. So this is Locke's crew. Which of those people talking to Nathan Fillion was Locke, the new guy?
Locke is the generic one. Locke is the one that you know that nobody else really likes. Like, he doesn't have any friends.
He has no personality.
But no, it's Olympia Vale.
Right.
She's in red, I believe, and then there's Holly Tanaka, and then Spartan Locke. I think his name is Jameson Locke, and William Buck, I want to say. Buck obviously used to be in ODST. He was one of the characters in Halo ODST. But this is a new wave of Spartans. These are the Spartan 4s.
Right.
So in comparison to them, Master Chief is like he's an old guy.
He's
not as
outdated.
he's not as good as the new models,
Right.
or is he? Who
Who
knows?
Ludwig, easily baffled, actually asks a pertinent question, which is, what isn't Platinum working on these days?
Exactly.
It's true, man.
That list is much shorter.
Everything Platinum is working on, including Halo 5, it involves really classy looking headphones. Platinum did not work on Halo 5, everybody. Despite the fact that Platinum is joining the exclusive Microsoft game family.
I just wanted to show you how far down this goes. The views in this game are really spectacular.
Let's see how far down.
Whoever is
this
running
goes.
the art direction is fantastic.
That was something I thought that Halo 4 did really spectacularly well. And yeah, they were skyboxes. They were not vistas of places that you could actually go. But man, some of the things that you could see in Halo 4, there is you're in that jungle stage, you're heading towards that crashed ship. And once you get into the clear and you can actually see everything on the horizon and the size of the ship, it's just really, really stunning. I still can't believe Halo 4 was running on the Xbox 360. That was a very...
It's probably the best looking Xbox 360 game
Oh, yeah.
there is.
Yeah, I think so. And we will talk to Halo franchise director Frank O'Connor all about that when he joins us in just 15 minutes. If you are just joining us right now, hello, welcome to GamesRadar.com's Twitch channel. You are watching our weekly talk show, How It's Done. My name is Anthony John Agnello, Senior Social Editor at GamesRadar. And playing Halo 5's campaign right now is our Editor-in-Chief, Ludwig Kitzman.
That's right, that's me. Hi.
And
it's challenging playing these games, talking and concentrating at the same time.
It's not the easiest thing in the world.
That's why I went ahead and lowered the difficulty slightly.
Oh, so your boasts of beating the entire campaign in heroic.
I already did it in heroic. Like, I don't need to do it again.
He already did it, everybody. It's fine. He already did it. So, Letty, I know, man, you and I are very similar temperaments when it comes to like what we find interesting in video games. Like, there's nothing more tiresome than being like, well, tell me about how the new weapons feel and how many weapons do you have.
You do kind of want to know,
but like Halo's
about
different.
the new weapons, don't you?
Yeah, Halo's different. Halo is so much about how it feels to move around in a space and how these very clearly identified and diversified tools work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Totally know what you mean.
So tell me about what you're carrying around and whether or not it feels any different than anything.
I'll do that. I'm just adjusting the brightness on my monitor so I can actually see what I'm doing. Yay! Well, so I'm using the battle rifle.
Right.
So the biggest changes that you'll be able to see right off the bat is you can aim down the sights now. Now it's called the Smart Link, but it's aiming down the sights. You never need to do it though. You can very much fire from the hip, as with any Halo game. But there are a couple of advantages, in addition to the precision, is that you can hover mid-air if you're using it, which is pretty convenient, I find.
That's cool.
Especially if you're like in this area where I'm here right now, if you pop up and aim, you get a little more time to line up shots. You can boost side to side. I'll show you some of the ground slams and bashing moves that you have now as a Spartan. But beyond that, I haven't picked up a new weapon yet. All the weapons have been tweaked, though. The suppressor, which is kind of like the submachine gun of the Prometheans, so you might remember from Halo 4, it's a lot better now.
Yeah.
The bolt shot is a little different. The other cool thing is like every weapon has its own unique like little animation for when you go down the sights. So like the suppressor kind of splits apart.
See, it's so weird because everything you're saying, when people talk about those features in like a Call of Duty or a Battlefield or anything like that, I'm automatically just so like, ugh, who cares? Who cares? But then when you tell me about them in Halo, I'm like, ooh, tell me how the Needler is slightly different this time. I badly want to know.
No, but the weapons are important because in Halo you're always juggling them, right? Like you're running out of ammo, so you're picking up different ones, so you have to get good at pretty much everything.
Yeah, like Halo is such, as a series, it is such a unique thing.
So this is a new Promethean enemy type also, by the way, that you're seeing. It's a soldier. They teleport around. You have to shoot them in the chest once you've damaged their armor. We're going to switch to the light rifle, which again is a really cool animation for switching to your scope.
I like this new thing in sci-fi shooters for the past year where shooting like these sort of alien robots or monsters in a very specified chest spot is the new thing. Because I love that in Destiny. God, what are the robot people called in Destiny, everybody?
Vex.
And you have to shoot them in the juice box. That's what the achievement is. It says right in the juice box, which I love. I love that recognition of juice boxdom. If you guys have any absurd, ridiculous questions that you want to ask the people behind Halo, why Halo is like Halo, we're going to have Frank O'Connor on the line in just 10 more minutes. So please, prep yourselves. Gear up, folks. Get psyched. Get ready. Luddy, I gotta say, I'm very excited to play Halo 5. I am. Single and loving it. How do I get Senpai to notice me? I just don't know. I just don't know. That is God.
You can't force it. You can't force it.
I feel like the worst. Like I am just gonna. I spoil our viewers rotten. That's what I do. Sam Prell, our very own Sam Prell, asks, "What difficulty is Ludwig playing on?"
I'm playing on normal for streaming purposes.
For streaming purposes, Sam.
Yeah, like I don't want to die over and over. That's not fun to watch.
I think some people like seeing folks die over and over
but again. I finished it on heroic, and it's totally doable on your own. But I think the difficulty goes up when you're joined by co-op people as well.
How long did it take you to finish, Ludwig?
I want to say about 8 to 9 hours.
8 to 9 hours. That's perfect. That's a question for everybody who's joining us.
So I found the carbine. The carbine is one of the best weapons in Halo.
Oh yeah,
it's fun. It's really fun. Okay, see, let me try and show you off the ground pound thing.
Luddy, somebody was asking if the hammer is back. Is the hammer back? I freaking love the hammer.
If it's back, I didn't see it. It might be in multiplayer, though.
Bummer.
I haven't really spent out too much time with the multiplayer.
And when, God, oh, that's really cool, that ground pound thing. That is really neat. Back when Halo 3 first came out, and, you know...
I do want the needler. Does anyone else do this, like, where you pick up one gun, and you're like, no, I'd rather want the other one, and then
every time
you change your mind again?
Constantly. That Halo dance, man. That is the Halo dance. Of sitting there and going back and forth, being like, oh yeah, do I want this? Do I want this? And then it's inevitably the assault rifle again. Just let me keep the assault rifle for as long as possible. That was something that Halo 4 did very well, I thought, was it nerfed the assault rifle just enough that I found myself more willing to give it up.
It's about range, right? Like, I feel like when you're playing Halo, you always want something long range, and you want something that's medium to close range.
Yes, yeah.
And if you're dealing with elites, you want something that can take out shields pretty quickly.
Yep, absolutely.
If you're dealing with certain types of enemies, demand more precision, so you'd want something with a scope. Let's see. I'm going to stick with the Needler. I like the Needler.
I love the Needler. The Needler's my fave.
It's just an interesting weapon because it goes from, like, punitive, almost imperceptible damage, and then once you hit the critical mass, it's like maximum damage.
Yeah, it's perfect. You get to see people pop, and that is delightful. Man, this level is not the most visually exciting thing. And again, I'm watching...
Very much a tutorial.
Yeah.
Although, the first level in Halo 4 is excellent.
I love the first level in Halo 4. I love the first level in Halo 3.
But I think you're already seeing sort of a lot of the cool level design is that there are multiple paths and there are multiple levels on which enemies will be.
Mm.
It doesn't feel quite as open, at least not on this level, as a Halo 1 level would, but it's pretty good. I'm finding data pads on the second playthrough. They're collectibles. They're audio logs.
Somebody was asking about skulls earlier. Did you find? I've never been.
I didn't.
I'm not a skull guy. I don't
like looking for things in shooters. I kind of just want to push forward and get back into the fight. See, over here, I can go left or right.
It's
Moral
not
choices.
It's not like old shooters like Wolfenstein or Doom or something where I was constantly hunting for what secret corner would have what I was looking for in it. Exactly. The skulls just aren't enough of an incentive for me. But I know that for some people, that is the game. Finding all that stuff. Oh no, the bad guys in this made a bigger giant glowing space crab.
Wouldn't you?
I guess I would at some point say, when is enough enough?
The answer is never. Never is enough.
Easily Baffled does ask, what about the skulls that you set to make the game harder?
I think those are the ones you have to find.
Yeah.
I'm assuming a birthday party for the grunts is back. It's the best skull.
What does that do?
So when you shoot them in the head, they confetti sprays out, and you hear a little cheer. People going, yay!
That's awesome. I like that. I like that a lot.
Oh, that guy just teleported in front of me. That's rude. I need a better weapon.
Yeah, you're done with this
But
thing.
the needler, I didn't really get to use the needler too much, so let's use it on that guy.
Actually, easily baffled. The skulls in ODST turned Halo into my favorite stealth game. That is an interesting example. I really need to play ODST, man. Again, I haven't played it in 6 years
They just
now.
added to Master Chief Collection.
Right, yeah. And I loved ODST when it came out. Loved it. It was just so weird. Like I was not prepared for a Halo game that was like so creepy and quiet at the same time.
It's kind of jazzy.
That is a really good word for it, which is unusual. Like every single time you're just wandering around that city that is just desolate is man, so cool. Juice Caboose 46 is ODST is one of my favorite Halo games of all time, and our very own David Roberts is saying ODST is best Halo, and I think I got to agree. No, I still fall on. I go back and forth. It really depends on what day it is. It's like today. I'm still gonna stick with Halo Reach as being the best, and ODST is a close second. Because as great as ODST is, as much as I love how weird it is, Reach is just a perfectly paced game. And yeah, easily baffled. The music was so spot on. The soundtrack to ODST is perfect.
Ugh, I fell down.
Buddy, no.
I hurt my ankle. Okay, someone's coming to help me.
I hurt my
At least they're
ankle.
trying to.
I hurt my Master Cheese ankle. Nobody will ever.
I need to go around the back and take this guy out.
Nobody
It's
will ever
bugging
give
me.
me the skin that I want for a character in Halo multiplayer. I want an outfit that is called Master Cheese, and it's Master Chief but made of cheese. I don't think that's too tall of an order.
His armor could be made of cheese. I mean, like a future
Right.
cheese that is bullet resistant.
Yeah,
Like a nice blue cheese.
but like still has holes in it, but they're decorative. Ludwig.
It's like it's making less
All right.
sense to me now.
I know that we can't spoil too many things, but is there a justification for Master Chief wearing a giant like poncho? Does he wear the poncho in the final game?
I don't want to spoil that.
All right, don't
I cannot
spoil that.
confirm nor deny the presence of a poncho.
Can't confirm. There might be a poncho. The poncho
Space
might
poncho.
be in Halo 5. A poncho.
Oh, you know what's really really good about Halo 5 is the incidental or the context sensitive dialogue from your squad mates, the way that they'll point out enemies and what's happening and who's attacking them.
Oh,
It's extremely
usually
detailed.
that's so bad. Usually
It's really
that's
good. It's
terrible.
totally useful to me.
Oh, that's awesome. See, now in just 2 minutes, everybody, we're going to be bringing in franchise director Frank O'Connor, and that's exactly the kind of granular, weird question that I want to ask him about.
Space ponchos
You've probably
or
yeah, I'm gonna absolutely.
I'm taking a
ask
turret
about
with me. I
space
feel like
ponchos.
that's a good strategy.
Oh, can you tear off that turret? Yeah, of course you can.
Oh yeah.
See,
I feel like Halo 3 a little
unfortunately,
bit.
God, man, I was still a Halo hater when Halo 3 came out. I really did not care for 2, and I enjoyed the beginning of 1, but 1 lost me very, very quickly. And man, like there, that moment, it's not the exact first level in Halo 3, but it's like once you've moved through the jungle and you've gotten into the base, I think it's like either the second or the third mission, and you can start ripping out those turrets. I was like, oh, this is a whole different thing. This is a whole different game. Whole different ball of wax. I love the vehicles in Halo 3 too. Like those ridiculous motorcycle things.
The mongoose.
The mongoose. Thank you, yes.
That's more like an ATV, I guess.
Well, what is the one that has like the giant big wheel on the front of it? Is that the mongoose?
Oh, that was in Halo 3. and I think never seen again.
Yeah, never seen again. That's not Halo 3?
It is Halo 3, but I'm trying to remember what it was
is Halo 3.
called.
You could jump on it. Oh, Arbushy X. Man, I know that there are people that adore 2, that love. Louder Kirk has it. The chopper.
Yeah,
I love the chopper. The chopper is awesome. So cool. Why isn't that in other games? All right, let's get Mr. Frank O'Connor in here.
Just let me know if you need me to change anything with the Skype window.
I think you're okay.
Should automatically put his glorious face front and center.
He should be joining us in just 1 second.
So this is a really cool thing. I don't know if you saw that the knights, the Promethean knights, are a little different in Halo 5. They're much more challenging enemy, much more dangerous, and the way you defeat them is pretty cool. You really have to hit a couple of weak points really, really quickly to take them out, which means you have to get a little closer to them, which is very scary.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, hello, welcome to this week's episode of How It's Done, GamesRadar's weekly talk show. My name is Anthony John Agnello, and we are playing Halo 5, and we are about to join in... I have just gotten a message from Frank O'Connor. We are getting Frank O'Connor from
343.
343. I apologize, everybody. I'm
director.
getting contacted by Microsoft as we speak on the air. If you run into issues, since Frank says he upgraded to Skype for Business. Ludwig, excuse me for 1 moment. Everybody continue to enjoy Halo.
Missing all this cool stuff, Anthony.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry about that little brief interruption. We are trying to bring in Halo franchise director Frank O'Connor onto the call. But as per usual, Skype is causing all sorts of wonderful problems. So we are speaking to Microsoft at the moment and trying to get an alternate way to loop him into the call. And we are trying to do that as we speak.
Anthony, are you cool with me skipping some of the cutscenes so that we can get back to shooting?
Oh, yeah.
things?
No, Ludwig, please continue to shoot things.
Because I rather enjoy shooting things, turns out. Do you need any help from me in getting the Skype situation sorted?
No, leave it to me, Ludwig. Just continue to tell folks about what's going on. And LOL, FUXYAH, that is not a screen name that I automatically know how to pronounce. I didn't think this game was out for another 5 days. It is not out for another 5 days. You are watching GamesRadar's official Twitch channel, and we are playing a review copy of the game provided to us by Microsoft. Ludwig Kitzman, our editor-in-chief, is playing the first 3 missions of the campaign. for your viewing pleasure, and we are trying to bring franchise director Frank O'Connor onto the call, but unfortunately he is not getting our Skype messages, and we are speaking with Microsoft via text right now to try and figure this out.
It's like the old days.
Yeah, this is literally like, I swear to God, people talk about Twitch. Like I talk to some people who are like, what is it? Like, how does it work? And like, these are people outside of the world of gaming. And the closest thing I can compare it to is it is like a weird cross between television and radio.
And things will go wrong.
And things will go wrong.
I'm actually not skipping this one because this one's really cool.
That's the nature of live entertainment, everybody, as you well know. But Ludwig is now trying to... Yeah. Philip Krofna, Skype needs some patching. Boy freaking howdy. And Evil Turquoise, can you play multiplayer at the moment? We are going to be playing multiplayer a little bit later in the stream, but we will absolutely be doing that. Well, literally just a couple of hours before we went live this afternoon, Ludwig was able to download the patch that activated multiplayer, so we'll get into some of that in just a couple of minutes.
I can try adding him as a contact to me. See if that gets any better.
J Villa 296, the Chief looks so badass. Yeah, there's no getting away from that. An SC remix, not sure whether to get Black Ops 3 or Halo 5. Ludwig, where do you fall down on this, man? You freaking loved Advanced Warfare, but I
wouldn't say
loved.
I don't know how you really enjoyed, maybe.
Black Ops.
That's a good question. I think I'm gonna go with. I mean, I only really have time for one major multiplayer game per year, right? So I think I'm going to side with Halo this time, but I think the Black Ops 3 multiplayer is pretty interesting, especially with how some of the specialists are happening. Is my microphone broken?
Some of the specialists happening? Oh no, now you're back. Now you're back. You went into robot voice mode momentarily.
Robot voice mode.
Question,
probably Skype.
what does Frankles think is the #1 part of a game? Story, mechanics, graphics, obviously all important, but what is #1? Grindtastic, we are going to ask Frank that as soon as he is actually on the call.
I'm actually going to try to add him from my end, just so that we can see if that works.
Yeah, Ludwig is trying to add him from his end, and it is proving to be a little tricky.
Yeah, I also made you invisible temporarily, just so you're aware of that. That's not a personal commentary on you. I just figured it would be more exciting to have some of the game back there than me trying to add someone on Skype.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, welcome to GamesRadar's weekly talk show. I know we just did a station ident, but I want to assure you that you're not just looking at a blank little screen of Halo 5. MSH 91492, how did you get the game already? We are the official channel of GamesRadar.com.
Way to go with a boring explanation. Such a boring explanation.
We stole it. We stole it from the minds of Microsoft, which sit under the Washington State, and they're filled with monsters. That probably didn't make any sense. If you are waiting to talk to Frank O'Connor, so are we. We are talking to Microsoft via email right now, trying to figure out what the problem is. And we're working on it, everybody.
Well, while you do work, I think I'm going to go back to playing Halo. I try to help, but I think I can help the galaxy more if I move ahead. So we're playing as Monster Chief right now. We're on the Argent Moon, which is I think it's like a decommissioned Oni facility or ship that we're investigating. We're trying to get some stuff, but the mission is rarely that simple. So Anthony, you might be delayed, but there's like a really cool view of the ship inside this area. So cool. I love the ginormous scale of these environments.
We might have it. We've been provided an alternate contact number. Everybody.
Exciting. I still sometimes see like a little bit of Ghost in the Shell, Tachikoma tank design in some of these things. Like the sort of bulbous nature. Oop.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. We've got Frank
It's
coming
happening.
in hot. Sorry about the delay. But here we go. Frank, are you with us?
I think I am.
Hey, that's how it's done, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, one more station ident just for shits and giggles. How about that? My name is Anthony John Agnello, Senior Social Editor here at GamesRadar. You are watching our weekly talk show, How It's Done, and joining us on the line is Halo franchise director Frank O'Connor. How the hell are you doing, Frank?
I'm good. I'm busy, but I'm actually calling you from my kitchen because I have to take off for London in a couple of minutes to go to the London launch for Halo 5.
Frank, I can't imagine that you'd be busy this week. Can't imagine that you have anything.
Why, is something happening this week?
Yeah, something on Monday or Tuesday. I can't remember.
Yeah, guys, everybody knows Microsoft has a big release this week. Brute Force 2 for Xbox One only. No, wait. What the hell? That's not the case. Frank, I'm very excited that you could join us because you have had a very storied history with the Halo series. You've been franchise director since Halo Reach came out in 2010, and you sort of stewarded the series through some of its most dramatic changes. Not just the shift from it sort of being Bungie's baby to being 343's baby, but also some very dramatic reimaginings of what a Halo shooter can be. There was sort of 1, 2, 3, and ODST were very similar games, and then between Reach, 4, and now 5, there have been some dramatic changes, and I'm very curious what your role has been in sort of facilitating these changes.
It's funny you say that. The Halo fans probably, as a constituency, don't agree with you because I think I go all the way back to Halo 2, and when we introduced boarding and dual wielding and stuff like that, people freaked out. They had this thing. They had sort of formed these furrows and grooves in their neural pathways that were Halo CE, and it had to be just so. And so when we introduced Halo 2, a certain segment of our audience lost their minds because it was too much change. They wanted the same thing again. They just wanted different maps. And that happened again with Halo 3. We took dual wielding away, and all the people who love dual wielding freaked out, and so on and so on. And Halo Reach had armor lock, and every game that we release in the series has some evolution or some change, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse, that people absolutely freak out about. So from my perspective, just having kind of been there like a piece of old furniture, nothing has really changed in terms of those sort of big release cadences. We always introduce things that are either controversially good or controversially bad. So in that regard, I don't really see it as having stewarded anything through anything more disruptive, really, than I think the most disruptive thing we ever did, which was take Halo as a kind of offline LAN game and make it a Xbox Live internet game and sort of establish a lot of things that people take for granted nowadays. So I think that was the biggest ever change we made to a Halo game, and a lot of even the more controversial ones seem to pale by comparison.
So, from your perspective, it's interesting to hear that you feel like change is very much baked into the DNA of the Halo series, that every single time you're seeing these things that the hardcore fans feel like is dramatic differences between each entry. I'm interested. What do you feel personally like you can never change? What are your sacred cows in the Halo series? Like, what has to be there for it to actually be a Halo game?
I think there's some elements of the gunplay and elements of just things like Luke magnetism and stuff like that have to be there, and that are absolutely vital to Halo's heart and soul. But they're never identical between iterations. Sometimes we have hit scans, sometimes we don't. So there are always even at that level of microscopic detail, there are always little incremental shifts. I think. Philosophically, though, I think that one thing we did change, for the worse in Halo 4, and fans voted with their feet and walked away from some matchmaking, was making our multiplayer asymmetrical. And so we can argue all day long about weapons and reload speeds and movement speed and all that stuff. But I think that the one thing that almost every single fan would agree on, even people who liked it, is that having asymmetrical gameplay leads to deleterious effects in your matchmaking population, and so I think that's the biggest reversion that we've done in terms of how we look at multiplayer this time around. And we haven't been afraid to make some changes. We've increased player mobility, we've added new weapons, we've changed some of the existing weapons. That happens every single iteration. But I think definitely the stumble we made with Halo 4, and I think we've been pretty open about this, is making asymmetry and imbalance in the game. While we did it with good intentions and some good ideas and even some good design principles, it just didn't work for Halo, and it really didn't work for us. And so in that regard, we've kind of taken a couple of steps back, even as the design team and the tech team have taken giant leaps forward. Oh, I like that metaphor. Actually, I thought it was going to fail and collapse, but it sort of finished okay. So
I feel like people are still getting used to the 60 frames per second. Almost culture that a studio needs, and designing so much around that and the feel of it. It feels different, but it doesn't feel like the way that you've aimed and moved for all these games is undone. Like, it doesn't feel like you have to relearn it, but at the same time, I feel like it feels hard to go back to 30 frames per second after this.
Yeah, we've definitely seen that, and I even find that as a player, going from even if I went from if I was playing Call of Duty Blops and went back to 30 frames per second Halo 3, it felt jarring, but it doesn't ever feel jarring going in the opposite direction for me. Everyone's a little bit different about frames per second. I know people who will instantly become nauseous if they're watching somebody else play a 30 frames per second game. But are completely fine playing it themselves. And frames per second has all these really subjective effects on people that are really interesting. And what we do find, though, is the vast majority of people, if they're playing at 60, especially a locked 60 or a really stable 60, have generally a better experience. And we know for a fact that the fidelity of the underlying simulation, the controls, the actual gameplay, that's all running at 60 frames a second too. And that one-to-one mapping to the visual fidelity reduces a lot of discomfort and a lot of the sort of disruption that you're talking about when you go from one to the other.
I think even if you don't have the vocabulary to discuss frame rates and how often the simulation is updated, I think you can just look at it, and animation, I think, just tends to look way better at 60 frames a second. It just...
and really,
it gives it a visual spark in a way that you don't get from movies at all, because movies are a much lower frame rate.
I think being honest with you, I think people who don't really understand the frame rate conversations or don't care about it, and that's perfectly fine. I think the one thing they will notice is that they're going to be playing in a game, and that time you thought you shot that guy first, but he shot you, and you call a BS at the screen as if it's going to change its mind. Those are substantially reduced, to almost eliminated, and that's also, in thanks partly in thanks to the dedicated servers as well. But that 60 frames per second, it doubles the amount of fairness that you can perceive in a game.
Yeah.
Frank, we do have a question that Grindtastic Games was popping into the chat here before we even had you on the line. He wanted to make sure that he was like queued up to ask you this. And I actually like this question a lot. Is what do you think is the most important part of a Halo game? What is the number one part? Is it story? Is it the mechanics? Is it the graphics? He says obviously everything is important, but what is number one? And you were sort of speaking to this before. But
I'm gonna cheat. I mean, look. The fact is, we have so many different constituents. We have people who are only interested in the story, can't even play the game. We have people who only want to build forge levels, and so on and so on and so on. I think the one thing that everyone can agree upon is the sandbox, because the sandbox is it's the heart and soul of what the game is in both multiplayer and campaign. And I think that one of the I think the single biggest difference between this and other Halo games is that we now have a mode that uses all of the sandbox simultaneously. But the sandbox, that's why Halo CE's multiplayer is good, is because it took all these elements that were really designed for campaign. They weren't designed for multiplayer. Bungie had great storied history of putting in multiplayer modes, but these were just ingredients. It's like Iron Chefs taking these ingredients from the table and putting them into multiplayer. So it doesn't matter which part of Halo is your favorite part of the game. At the core of it, it's the stuff and the universe that underlies every mode is the most important thing. And having a big I mean, when people were watching the original Steve Jobs reveal on the Mac back in the day, I think it was 1999 at Macworld. They were that was the thing that enthralled people, was the sandbox. They're like, wait, I can get in a car and drive around. I can use these weapons. What's going on? And the AI is clever. That was the sandbox, and that's core to Halo. And that's one of the things that, there are other games with really cool sandboxes. GTA's crazy big sandbox, right? But I think that's one of the differences between Halo and a lot of other FPSs, although not universally. Lots of people have caught up in terms of feature sets and stuff. But I think Halo's got such a grand tradition of having a flexible, interesting sandbox that just gives lots of different kinds of players lots of different things to do.
Frank, one of the things, it blows my mind that this was 11 years ago now. I can't believe it's been that long. But I remember so distinctly waking up in, December of 2004 and seeing headlines online that were like, once the numbers had been tallied, that the release of Halo 2 was the biggest money-making media release of all time at that moment.
Yeah.
That it made more money than any movie, any, show, anything.
Yeah.
And that first, week of sales. And that blew my mind that Halo 2 could do that. And it did it again, repeatedly, throughout your history with this series. Halo 3 broke that record. Halo Reach broke that record. Halo 4 did not break that record. And, I feel like there were other things that stepped in and replaced it. I know that Black Ops 2 held that title for a while. But since then, it's gone back to movies. I think Jurassic World is now the front runner in that field. And I wonder if that sort of speaks to Halo's place in the broader pop culture. And I'm wondering, what's your perspective? Has Halo changed? Is it now, is it still, the industry-defining thing? Is it the thing that everybody plays? Or has it settled into, there are just Halo players, and that's who's excited about Halo 5? Or is it everybody? What's your feeling on its place in the broader pop world?
I think that, going back to Halo 4, Halo 4 did actually beat some record of some momentum, speed, or accelerated sales curve that some number cruncher figured out. But the reality is that it's kind of a good thing, because it used to be Halo was the only game in town, and that is kind of like the issue that Nintendo has, where it's just Mario or Mario Kart or whatever that game is, but there's nothing else there for players. They're buying it for a single purpose. The good thing about COD, generally, from my perspective, is it kept us on our toes and forced us to be competitive. We're a single platform game. And the Xbox is slowly creeping up behind the PS4, but we're never going to be a multi-platform FPS, and so we can't. There's some of those sales figures just aren't really attainable in a rational sense. But what I've noticed with Halo 5 is with Halo 4 we had a lot of critical success. It sold fantastically well. I think the fundamental issue, and it's still to this day, a lot of people say it's one of the best looking games on the Xbox 360, and so on and so on and so on. But where we tripped up was multiplayer, and we know that. And I mean, from the first couple of weeks after the game came out, we were aware of that, and we were aware that, and we made some changes to it through matchmaking. But there's only so much you can do with those kinds of tools. So we kind of took a step back philosophically and reset. And to the at the beginning of this conversation, we had a chat about what is core to that experience, and that's the principles we've gone back to. In terms of being, a cultural touchstone or a pop culture icon, what I've noticed this time with Halo 5 is, we're getting the usual sort of hype. We were on the cover of Bloomberg this morning and all that sort of stuff. That stuff happens.
Right.
People are excited about it, and we're going to be on some TV shows and all that stuff. It just happens organically because it's an attractive nuisance, right, for the media. But what I've noticed this time is there are a lot of people who are really excited about this game who actually missed a generation. We've got some original Xbox people. We've got some people who never played Halo 4. And I'm talking about significant numbers. Obviously, we do a lot of good sort of data crunching and number crunching. And I think our core fans have this hashtag #WeBack. And we'll find out if we're back next week. But we never really went away. But the reality of the market is that it's good for the market to have lots of competition, because it forces everyone to do better and to try harder and make their next best shot. And Call of Duty is a great example of that. Grand Theft Auto is its own. If you want to talk sales figures, that's a monster. It's a multi-format.
Right.
Perfection for those guys. And so we look at all that stuff, and we take it really seriously. We can't rest on our laurels, and we can't rest on some 2004 version of our culture and our audience. And the only way you can do that, you can't do it with advertising or marketing or hype. You have to do it with product, and you have to make sure that it's the game that people want, because you can sell a lot on day one. But if people stop playing it, then you're quickly going to lose relevance, and it's going to be almost impossible to get that kind of momentum back up again for the next one.
It's really interesting to hear you say that, you have to make the game that people want, and it's weird to see Halo 5 born in a culture that is so different, even than than when Halo Reach came out, than when Halo 4 came out. Things are different now in terms of the expectation of the community and the audience's role in the development of the game. And I don't know how I feel about this. I don't know if I think it's a totally good thing that there's such a direct line of communication, because I feel like there are so many different voices in the community, and when you hear a negative voice, it can be very, very difficult to ignore. And I'm glad to see certain things in Halo 5 change between, when the multiplayer beta came out and there were all the bro poses at the end of a match, and I was like, ugh, no, get that the hell out of here. But at the same time, I don't want to see 343 not making the game that they think they should make, rather than the one the audience thinks that they should have. How do you balance this, man?
I'm glad you picked that example, because that was, one of the reasons we did the beta was obviously to get network stress testing and let people try out the new mobility and the new gunplay and stuff. We knew with those bro poses were going to be controversial, and we just kind of wanted to get a read on it from the audience. And of course, you have to be careful what you listen to, and I'd push this challenge back to the audience. Be careful what you ask for. If you're in a forum and you see two dudes that are perfectly aligned in their hatred or love of your thing, seconds from now they're going to say the complete opposite of each other, even though they seem to be completely aligned. They're unified in their hatred of X or their love of Y. two posts from now, they're going to say, well, I think the Halo 2 pistol was the best balanced, and somebody's going to say, well, I think it was the Halo 3 one. I mean, that guy would be mocked because it really wasn't the best pistol, but that's what happens. And so the people that you think have this unified, clear vision of what the game should be actually disagree with each other on almost every single granular piece. And so when we did the bro poses, we're like, people are going to freak out about these and ask us to pull them back, and we were already dialing them back in development. But then I had joked, I'm like, I bet you when we take these out, or I bet you when we dial this back, people are going to demand that they come back, and that's exactly what happened.
Of course.
And that was then you heard suddenly the silent 50% who hadn't bothered saying anything about it because it was okay, right? Not everything has to be the most amazing thing ever. Bro poses doesn't have to be the thing you're most excited about, but if you're okay with it and then it goes away, then you're bummed. And so those people tend to be silent. We can't make a game with an online focus group. You would end up with, I mean, a single level of Counter-Strike Go with one weapon. I mean, that's what you distill it down. But you know what I mean. And even
I totally do. But like, that's the perfect example. That's like the perfect. Yeah, that is exactly what you would end up with if you tried to make a game purely around like market data and feedback and and focus.
The level would be
that's
dust,
what you would get.
right? And so,
yeah.
But I think, the thing that is actually exciting for me is that I get in pretty heated conversations with some of our fans and some of our non-fans or unfans, and I think they think that we ignored the negatives, right? And we only listen to the positives. It's nonsense. The weird thing is that I think definitely it's a much more aggressive and less friendly community than it used to be back in the day. Everything was soft and fuzzy. But the good thing is that even the jerks, even people who are completely jerks online, sometimes they actually know what they're talking about. Sometimes they really do understand the subtleties of the gunplay, the subtleties of the look magnetism and all that stuff. They actually know what they're talking about. Now, some of them can't help themselves but phrase what should be a, would you guys ever consider this, into, and they'll phrase it as, you guys are 500 Hitlers and you should just stop doing anything ever. And I think the tone of communication has definitely deteriorated. Even people who hate us will admit that. But I think the good thing, the benefit is that they're often speaking with far more education on the subjects that they're talking about, and sometimes have really compelling insights, even when they're phrased in horrible ways, and contain metaphors about your mom and so on. So I think that the good news is we now have a far more educated vocal minority rather, and so it's actually easier to get really good and useful information out of them, even contra information. We don't shy away from criticism. I personally don't like bad manners, and I just won't put up with it, but I do still read their posts, and I do still pay attention and take notice.
Frank, I hate to say it, but like I feel like that bad manners culture is very, very tied to Halo culture. I feel like, the rise of Xbox Live and the rise of the population in Xbox Live last generation on Xbox 360 was like, oh man, I don't want to play online games because it's, nothing but people spewing like sexist, racist nonsense in matches of Halo 3. And I'm curious, how do you think, how do you weed that out as you go forward? You want people to come in and play Halo 5. It's going to be their first Halo, and you want them to be able to, participate with those people who are very informed, but at the same time, like, might be part of that very negative, impolite culture. How do you combat that?
It's, honestly, like the reality is that, 99 out of 100 people are perfectly nice. They really are. 99 out of 100 people don't even go on the forums. But I think what happens is that, it's kind of like you throw a candy bar in a swimming pool, and you're going to scare people out of that swimming pool pretty fast. And even though it's a tiny, tiny fraction of the pool, it looks like a poo, and everyone is out of there. So I think that you also have to put it in perspective. This is a small vocal minority, and a minority within a minority. We have a lot of aggro posters and community members who are just like excitable. They're not mean or rude or stupid, but that all it takes is one. And you guys have your own forums. All it takes is one jackass to kind of ruin it for everyone else and completely subvert the tone of the conversation. People could have been having a really constructive conversation. You just get one jackass who comes in there and wrecks it for everyone. And you just have to let these things run their course and hope that, and usually it does, eventually the communities kind of coalesce and say, hey, this conversation's going south, and we just have to stop or move on another subject. The reality is, since the kids first started learning about the seasons outside of a cave, they have been jerks to each other. So you're not going to stop kids being jerks to each other. That's part of their growing and learning process. It's just sometimes it's embarrassing when that kid is a 42-year-old shut in a basement. So.
Frank, I promised our own news writer here at GamesRadar that I would ask this question, and I got to admit, I'm curious. And now I'm not complaining. I want to make that clear up front. But why is Cortana nude? I love it personally, but we've seen other AIs sporting very jaunty clothes, and Cortana is keeping it raw, which I admire. But is there a reason?
Firstly, she's not actually nude because she doesn't. She has neither clothes nor private parts. She's effectively just wearing a kind of holographic body stocking. I mean, that's the conceit. However, it's like you said, that's what it makes you think of, because that's the kind of thing you think about all the time, obviously. And
Anthony thinks about it all the time.
But really,
I do.
We've kind of backed into the canon a little bit and had this conversation even before we ever showed pictures of Cortana. Why is she doing that? Why would an AI pick that? Well, we have other AIs. We have an AI that dresses like a wizard. We have one that dresses like a World War II pilot. They do it because they feel like it's a part of their personality. And in Cortana's case, because she's illegally cloned from a real human brain, she's a little bit different than other AIs. And one of the reasons she does it is to attract and demand attention. And she does it to put people off so that they're on their guard when they're talking to her, and that she has the upper hand in those conversations. It's kind of almost like the opposite of that nightmare you have where you go to school in the nude and you're terrified and embarrassed. She's kind of projecting that back out to her audience and winning points, intellectual points as a result. So again, that's not why she was designed like that. That's how we've kind of backed into our fiction. But that's the conceit, and that's why she does it. And she expresses that in her other behaviors, and we've invested in that aspect of her persona.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, welcome to this week's episode of How It's Done, GamesRadar's weekly talk show here on our Twitch channel. My name is Anthony John Agnello, and I am hanging out with our editor-in-chief, Ludwig Kitzman, and Halo franchise director, Frank O'Connor, who is being very gracious when I ask about my attraction to an AI character. But if you have any questions for Frank O'Connor, I know he has to leave very, very soon to catch an airplane to London. Please pop them in the chat, and we'll try and get them answered before he has to go. Frank, I did see a couple of people in the chat talking about they're having a little bit of a debate, as tends to happen with Halo features that come and go. Little debate about the importance of split screen. I loved the split screen co-op in Halo. It was very important to me, and I know it's absent here. Is there any conversation about sort of incorporating that at a later date, or is that just gone from Halo 5?
Realistically, for Halo 5, it's not something we can just throw in a patch. The simulation that the game runs at is 60 frames a second. You've seen how big the vistas are. You've seen things like the Kraken and so on and so on and so on. It's just not feasible with the way the engine works now. Now, the blowback from it has been huge within reason. We know what the real numbers are, and I'm not even going to give them out. Just suffice it to say, they're like most things, they're not as big as you think they are. But split screen is fun for me too. It's not something that I object to, and it's and we would have loved to put it in. If we could have, we would have. And I think that it's certainly a conversation we'll have about the next game. We haven't said, oh, split screen is dumb and we abandon it. It was, making a game is about finding a schedule and a list of priorities and a list of technical features that you can actually achieve. And the commitment to 60 frames a second we knew was going to create some issues. And one of those, unfortunately, and we don't feel good about this, one of those, unfortunately, is split screen. So we'll talk about it for the next game. And we'll talk about it for the future, but it really is a giant technical hurdle and not a trivial thing.
Easily Baffled here has the question: how has 343 been able to avoid the annualization of Halo? That is a very good question. I mean, is there pressure to put out a new game every single year? I can imagine it's intense.
There's, not really. I mean, it's not like Phil Spencer comes down and demands that we put out a Halo every year, and in fact, he doesn't. And Phil has said to us quite clearly, take the amount of time that Halo needs to take to make it the best game. He said that, and realistically, at least he's committed to this verbally. If that was 100 years, we'd get 100 years to do it. The reality is we're also running a business, and we have to be smart. And I think a 3-year cycle for something at that scale makes sense. Doesn't mean we couldn't do smaller things, and we're going to be able to interleave other products into that, like Halo Wars 2. So you're going to get something annually, but it may not be a mainline Halo game. And I like that. I like that they've given us that latitude. We make, I think, arguably one of the biggest FPS games, just in terms of what's in the package, the size and scale of it, and so it takes time, and you can't rush it. So we're in a good spot there, at least philosophically, and at least this week. Maybe Phil will change his mind, but.
Frank, it's so interesting to hear you say, like, you put a lot in the Halo package, and I completely agree. Like, I think I'm consistently impressed by how much is in there. Like, I remember when Halo 3 came out, and I realized really what the Forge was for the first time, and it baffled me because I was like, this should be its own thing, and yet it's sitting here next to all these multiplayer modes and this campaign, and I feel like the data that publishers collect might show that a campaign is not necessarily the most important thing anymore. That what people really want is the multiplayer, and that's what makes your game last, and why not just make that? And, we can look at examples like Star Wars Battlefront. There's no campaign in that game, and yet it's this huge tentpole release of the fall. But I feel, personally, like there is an expectation that all of the things that are in a Halo game will be there in all major games. Yeah. I feel like it does set that standard. Do you think there are things that the data shows that people don't use as much as other parts of the game that still need to be there?
Yeah. I mean, Forge is a great example. A tiny percentage of our users actually build things in Forge, but 100% of our users get to play with those things. So it's, you don't need a lot of people to be creating for other people to enjoy their work. There's other things that just have sort of fallen by the wayside over the years because the numbers were really small. I mean, things like Firefight. I love Firefight, but it would just, the amount of work it takes and the number of people who then play it, it just never made sense. It was better to make that investment in something else, and you see that with Warzone. But everyone thinks that the thing that they enjoy the most is the most important thing, and so you're right. It's a tricky balance, and we can't. The reality is we don't have infinite time. We don't have infinite people or budget, and we do have to make decisions, and sometimes they're hard decisions. Split screen is a great example of one where there were enough people to support it, but the current state of the engine meant that we just couldn't do it in the time allotted. I mean, maybe if we spent another year or 2 years working on the game, we could have done it, but I think people would have lost interest and moved on to other things by then.
Starstorm1 here in the chat wants to know, is there any chance Halo 5 will ever come to the PC? Are you sick of answering this question?
No.
Do you get just tired of the PC question, man?
I could answer this question all day long. Microsoft has made a huge commitment to try and sort of, I think, normalize the Windows experience across multiple platforms. So you're seeing the elements of Windows 10 are going to appear in the Xbox and Cortana and stuff like that. There's plenty of chance that Halo 5 could appear on the PC. Nothing to announce at this point, but it's absolutely not out with the bounds of reason. And we developed the game on an Intel platform. It's not. It wouldn't be the hardest thing in the world to move it to PC and take advantage of PC stuff. But nothing to announce today on this chat. So, but don't mind answering
it. This is a Coach Main wants to know, will there be a population counter in Halo 5? Was that missing in Halo 4? I didn't even notice if that was gone. That always blew my mind in Halo 3. To sign on and see how many people were playing.
We'll have a population indicator, but we're not going to give people the real numbers. They just they take those numbers and run with them in the completely wrong directions usually. So people use them as a bully pulpit, or they use them as a demand to take that thing off. So we'll tell people if populations are healthy, think like red, yellow, green. But giving people numbers is the dangerous business. So no, there won't be any numerical population counter. And I also think that people. I don't know what people do with that number, and I don't know, it's not like that number is broken down and it says, okay, here's people in your skill band, or here's people in your geographical region, and so on and so on and so on. But we will definitely let people know whether their playlists are healthy or not.
Frank, this one is pure me, and I love asking people this, and I know it's a ridiculous question because nobody ever wants to answer it. Because they're always like, well, maybe one day I'll actually get to do it, so why would I talk about it now? But I gotta know, what is something that you've wanted to see in a Halo game since you started working on the series that still isn't there? What do you want in Halo that isn't even here in Halo 5?
Yeah, I think the one thing I used to want that is now there is a mod that uses the whole sandbox, and that's not an unusual request. I mean, we've had the people asking that since Halo CE with AI, bosses, vehicles, PvP, PvE, the whole thing, and that Warzone is hopefully going to scratch that itch. But one thing, I'll tell you the dumb thing that I've always wanted to do, and it's completely pointless. I always wanted an isometric 3D moon patrol with warthogs. So you're driving along a sort of scrolling Halo landscape, jumping over pits, and your gunner on the back is blasting the UFOs, and you're blasting the stuff in front. That's what I want. 3D moon patrol in warthogs. That's useful, right? That's what the people want.
That's what I want now that you've described it.
With the music. It's got to have the moon patrol music.
Frank, I have a question about the story. Just because this is obviously just one chapter in a larger overall story. Is it really tough? Do people fight over which part or which progression of the story goes into the game, and what someone will feel is self-contained and what someone else will feel is not enough?
Guys, I apologize. I seem to have lost my connection here on the call. I'm not sure if you can still hear me. Ludwig, I can't hear you or Frank anymore, unfortunately.
Don't worry, it's good TV. We're watching your bafflement in abject horror. So, I'll answer that question. The story building process is really collaborative because we have to talk to designers about what features are going to go in the game. We have to talk to our engineers about what kind of tech we're going to have to achieve all these story goals. But then when it gets out to the public, you're right. People fundamentally disagree. That we have people who will get really upset about the way certain characterizations happen, and so on and so on. My feeling is that as long as there's disagreement, then you're striking some important chords. And bluntly speaking, with story, you're never going to make anyone happy, or you're never going to make everyone happy all the time. And you just have to make sure that you're respecting the characters and the universe and driving it forward in meaningful ways.
Anthony, are you back yet? I guess not.
We can sing show tunes till he gets back.
I love show tunes. The other question I have for you is just like, how much has 343 itself changed and reorganized itself around building a game like Halo 5, which I think is much larger scale than Halo 4. And there's certainly a lot of more pressure on the studio because this game is so tied into the narrative of the Xbox One itself.
Yeah, we've always been a game that tries to drive platform features, and we're doing that behind the scenes, and we're going to be doing that in the game itself. You're going to see some use of cloud and other things that are pretty straightforward but pretty exciting for us. I think that pressure, you kind of have to insulate yourself from it a little bit because the pressure should really be to make the best game for your audience. Sure, bring in new to audiences, but just making sure that you're producing an excellent product. I think if you start to get distracted by worrying about, should we take advantage of Kinect when it's not really a Kinect game, or should we take advantage of HDMI in for some reason? We're not forced to do that. Phil is absolutely cognizant of what games are about and what the console can do, and he wants us to make the most of that as it relates directly to Halo and to Halo fans, and that's really our central and only mission.
Is there any significance to this being I believe, the first numbered Halo game to have a subtitle?
It is, well, it depends. If you count Halo Combat Evolved as a 1 or
Fair.
a 0, then it's not. There is some significance to that. I think that being brutally honest, when you start to get to numbers like 5, you start to get into the territory of not really knowing which version is coming when. I'm not going to say the series, but I got really confused recently about a game series that was a spin-off of a series and was also numbered, and I literally was like, is that this year's one, or was that the last one? And I just kind of lost track. And so really it's just a mnemonic so that people who have lost track of the numbers can have something else to attach their feelings to. And Guardians obviously talks a lot about a specific element in the game, but also general sort of philosophical elements in games. These are the people protecting us. And so that's it. You get to a point where the numbers are too damn high, and people need more to cling to than that.
Frank, first of all, sorry I dropped out there for a second, guys. My internet connection is crap today. But I'm interested to hear you talk about, adding on the subtitle of Guardians. This is just a personal taste thing, but I feel like there was, in both movies and television and video games last decade, a push away from having those high numbers on the end of a thing. Like you're saying, there needs to be something more to bring people in. But I feel like that's going in the opposite direction now, and people like it when there's a number there. How do you feel about it, man? Do you want a sequel to have a clear number there?
No, I like it when the numbers are nice and symmetrical. 2s and 3s and 10s and 50s. But when you get into the sort of random, boring numbers you wouldn't pick on your lottery ticket, I think people are funny about numbers, and they attach a lot of superstition and extra meaning and pattern recognition to them. So everyone has different feelings about it, and mine are that once you get up to 5, you should start thinking about having something else to add gravity to the situation.
Easily Baffled wants to know what considerations there have been for Major League Gaming in the design of Halo 5, and what are your thoughts personally on the pro scene in general? That's a really tricky question, because, Halo is a game that's going to be played by tens of millions of people, not just pro gamers, and that's a really hard thing to balance.
Well, we're actually working with MLG and the ESL on our Halo Championship series, so we'll definitely consult with those guys about rules and stuff like that. The game gives you plenty of custom options, so you can literally recreate the MLG rules. If he's talking about MLG specifically, he can recreate their rule set very easily, and we can incorporate that stuff in matchmaking pretty easily too. But in terms of esports, generally, it's a huge part of what we're doing. We've put in a spectator cam. We put in tools so that directors and leagues can, for example, you can outline players so that when they're occluded by objects, you can still make them out on the map, so that commentators have something to talk about, and so on and so on. And we built in a little delay to that so that you can't use it on a Twitch stream and so on. So it's esports is huge for us, and I think personally I'm really excited about. I love watching YouTube videos of montages of skill. Right, if I watch a sniper montage, I can watch that all day long. What I love about our game though is you're not going to be limited to that kind of recap. You're going to be able to see somebody chain together a boost, slide, jump, ground pound, all the gunplay that you can shake a stick at, grenades, and really chain together things so that it looks more like a fighting game, and that it's going to be much more watchable, much more exciting, much more unpredictable, I think, in some ways, and yet still have the core tenets of symmetry, balance, fair starts, and the predictability that you get out of a real sport. I think if you changed the rules of football every week, people would stop watching in a hurry because they just wouldn't have any sort of central foundation on which to base their interest. And I think that's something that we balanced really well in our arena multiplayer this time.
God, everybody, we're now getting into like the super nitty-gritty questions. Like, is Overshield in the game? Is the Parasite in the game? And, like, guys, you will be playing it in 5 days. You will be able to find out all of the delicious eccentricities that await you. What you loved will be back, and what you hated will also be back. Frank, is there anything that you feel like, though, that the general public has been misunderstanding about Halo 5 that you want to clarify or reassure or proselytize before this game comes out?
No, I mean, honestly, I could sit here all day long and tell. I think, I mean, personally, I think it's the best Halo that we've ever made. But that it's moot. People are going to have to get the thing in their hands. The review embargoes, I think, are up on Monday, so you'll have a full 24 hours to read those reviews and decide for yourself, this is the game for you. Anyone who's interested in it's already seen tons of video. A lot of people played the beta, so they know roughly how the gunplay feels, roughly how the multiplayer feels. My advice to people is, you all know what you like. I can't tell you what to like. Check it out on Monday. And if you buy it and you're already invested in it, you're already pre-ordered, I think you're going to love multiplayer. I think you're going to love the social experience. And what I would definitely say, though, is, and you just reminded me of this, play co-op. By all means, play campaign solo if you want. Play it on Heroic, have a blast, but go on and play co-op. Because if you pick another character, you're going to get a different experience. And it's not going to be radically different, but you're going to get different elements of story, you're going to get different perspectives on the action, and you're going to feel fundamentally different about how you completed the game. And I think that amount of replayability is something that is a lot of games don't really care about. I think they kind of want you to go through the campaign once, get to the multiplayer, and then get to the next iteration of that game next year. We have a different philosophy. We want you to get the most value out of your $60, sometimes $100 purchase, and I think this is going to be a game that keeps you interested and compelled for more than $60 worth of value.
Frank, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate your making the time to talk with us, man. Everybody, if you're watching this, you probably already know that Halo 5 is going to be out on October 26th. It's just a few days away. Frank, again, man, thank you. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it. It was a blast.
My pleasure. One correction, 27th is
27th
release day. Yeah.
See, no, there you go.
I wouldn't be able to go back to the office unless I fixed that.
You would have to release it on that date. That's what would happen.
We said it on the air. It's just true now. You got to change it.
We have to redo all the marketing.
One day early, everybody. So yes, on October 27th, you will be able to play Halo 5, and you will be able to continue to catch that game throughout the fall. I know that you guys are going to be supporting it with all kinds of lovely updates as you go. As for us, everybody, if you have not already, click that little heart to follow us below the Twitch player. This is the official channel of GamesRadar.com, and this show, How It's Done, airs every single Thursday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, and we are always talking to developers like Frank. Coming up on the show in the next few weeks, we're going to have Austin Wintory, the composer, coming to talk to us about Assassin's Creed Syndicate. We're going to have Rihanna Pratchett, the writer of Rise of the Tomb Raider, joining us here on this channel to talk to you about that game. And we're also going to be playing some weird freaking indies. Next week, we're playing an indie horror game called Knocked, which, if you have not heard of Knocked, it is one of the only 2D games that will make you crap your pants. And I'm talking from experience. Not really. Maybe. Possibly. That might have actually happened. And as for our review of Halo 5, you can keep an eye out for that. Ludwig, when is the embargo up again?
The review?
Yeah.
That's on Monday.
That's on Monday, and you guys will be able to check it out then. You go to GamesRadar.com. Luddy, how you doing in there? Are you missing Heroic? Are you tired of playing on the easy mode?
I mean,
the dumb-dumb
I'm
mode?
playing multiplayer now, so things are a little different.
Things are a little different?
So we can't end the stream until 5 minutes and 50 seconds have elapsed, because it's rude to leave a match once it's already started.
Because it's rude to leave a match. Frank, you want to stick around with us for another 5 minutes?
I can stay on camera for 5 minutes, but I would warn you, there just aren't all that many people playing today. It's going to change pretty radically on Monday, which is the 26th, but you'll start to get New Zealanders and stuff showing up at that point.
Frank, you know what I like, man? Okay, so to talk about that difficulty setting, now I've been being told for years that playing on Heroic on solo is the way that I'm supposed to be playing Halo. Why do you continue to call it normal mode then? I want to feel normal.
No, you don't want to feel normal. You want to feel heroic. Who wants to feel normal? when you've got a choice between being a hero and being a norm, I mean, which button are you going to press? And the reality is, most players. Look, you're a professional games journalist. Trust me, you are much better at video games than the average.
That means the
person.
opposite, Frank. I think.
That's not true. That is not true, Frank. I am terrible at video games. Openly admit it. I am not good.
Yeah, this is a problem that movie critics don't have. They don't have to be good at watching movies. They can just sit there like a vegetable and absorb it.
Yeah, it's really funny because Halo very quickly reveals itself as it's a different thing to every single person playing. I used to play these games exclusively split-screen co-op. I wouldn't even play the versus multiplayer, and it was because I was in my mid-20s, and I had a roommate, and we were, guys in our mid-20s sitting around playing Halo together, and we would consistently go in. It happened with Halo 2, it happened with 3, it happened with ODST. We would start and be like, all right, let's try it, man. This time we're going to play heroic, and then we'd give up within 2 missions and go back to normal. And I'm not saying that we had to play on normal because our motor skills were impacted for some reason. I'm not saying that necessarily. That might have been the case. But it still worked. It still felt right. And I'm interested, has the balancing for that changed at all over the years? People approach that in a different way now than then?
Yeah, so firstly, people are better at playing games. I mean, the first Halo, people had never played twin-stick shooter on a single controller. Like, you maybe got the occasional hardcore guy did the GoldenEye 2-controller thing. But so it was easier, and it had to be because you had this fundamental invention, basically, that just hadn't existed before. And I think that if you ask people, console gamers, show me how you play an FPS with your hands, and they're going to mimic Halo-y stuff, right? So people are used to it now. I think that the number one difference for Halo 5, though, is co-op. It's built for co-op from the ground up, so forget that the AI are just there helping you. You can give them commands. So if you're being trapped by 2 hunters on Legendary and you just can't get past it, well, you actually have options. You can tell your squad to go distract them while you sneak around the back. That would not have been possible on Halo 2, for example. You'd be stuck in Cairo Station till now, trying to get past some of that stuff. But having squad members gives you more options. And so one of the really interesting things, and I said replayability was improved, you don't have the repetition in harder modes that you used to in the olden days because you simply have more control over the environment. You can make things happen in a way that you couldn't necessarily in prior games. So yeah, we've had to tune for that. And over and above that, we literally and metaphorically, we've had to tune for verticality. We've given the player a lot more mobility vertically, and so we have to design levels that way, and we have to tune difficulty that way as well. So when you're in Argent Moon in one of the earlier missions, and you think you're sneaking around up on the catwalks, and the next thing you know, you've got a couple of jackals of jetpacked up there to get you. That's a thing we have to tune and a thing we have to account for. So yeah, the matrix of possibilities has dramatically increased. I would say geometrically, probably.
Everybody, that brings us to a close today. You have been watching GamesRadar's weekly talk show, How It's Done. You can catch this every single Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. Click the follow button. I know it's a heart. Commit to us. It's not that serious. We'll be gentle. We won't be gentle. I'm lying. Frank, thank you so much, man. Again, this was absolutely fascinating. And yeah, man, have a hell of a launch next week.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye, everybody. Ludwig,
Peace out.
Bring us home.
Yeah, so what do we have? We have 4 different shows on Twitch. We want you to watch them all.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one.
Every single
I
one.
mostly want you to watch my show, which is Departure Lounge, which is on Wednesday. We played a really creepy horror game just yesterday. And it's about discovering games completely blindly and being completely unaware of them. No marketing, just diving in and being surprised by them. And the day before that, Tuesday, we have I Got Next. And,
which is our weird talk show.
It's a weird talk show where we get someone who is not involved directly with the creation of games, but we play some games with them and we get some of that that broadening of scope, right? Like we get some information, some education. We learn things.
Ludwig,
we learn things.
Ludwig, we messed this whole thing up. Easily baffled. Just said we did a whole Halo stream without talking about Halo butts. That's not true, Easily Baffled.
Halo butts were implied.
The Halo butts were implied when I asked about Cortana, right? We covered
Yeah, you
the
asked
butts.
about Nude Cortana, so that counts. And then on Monday we've got Caught Up, which is a more general show in which we'll just play something that's pretty new or whatever people are talking about that week.
Absolutely. And
So
that's
please follow us.
every week, everybody. Make sure to follow.
Come to GamesRadar.com where we write about things. And our
And-
review will be available on Monday for Halo 5 Guardians. That includes the single player and the campaign. I mean, the campaign and the arena, Warzone, co-op, everything.
And we record things. You can go to iTunes and listen to Radio Radar.
Do that.